Hi, how you doing? Welcome back to Where Black Cats Walk. It's a mega bumper show this week. Loads to talk about the Stoke game, transfers, and also we're asking you, who's the worst goalkeeper that you've ever seen play for Sunderland? Delighted to have Charlie, Dylan, John, and Leo back with us, and we're also delighted to have Jake, and you'll recognise Jake, of course, from many podcasts for Sunderland. How are you, Jake? Thanks for joining us on this one.
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Absolute pleasure for coming on for the first time. Thanks for inviting me.
That's all right. And you should check Jake out on SAFC Fan TV, among other things. Coming up then this week, then we're going to talk about Le Fée, and can these guys believe what a star is on his way? Transfer rumours, is Job on his way out, though? Get these guys' opinions on that. We're asking AI to predict all the home fixtures to come, and again, we're asking to make the worst Sunderland side that we've ever seen play in the Championship across the 20 years that the Championship has been in existence. Let's jump straight into it, though. Let's briefly talk about the Stoke game. Jake, what was your humble opinions of that? Are you slightly glad to go out, being honest?
To be honest, I am, in a way. I think the fixture congestion, if we did go through it, it would have been a bit of a kerfuffle. The injuries as well, obviously, thoughts and prayers go out to Enzo Le Fée, who came off in a stretcher yesterday. That looks pretty bad. I'm guessing, based on how serious it looked, he may not play again for the rest of the season, which is unfortunate to see. In terms of the winning goal that Stoke scored, if you watch it back, Dan Neil is probably our most key player in our first choice starting 11 right now. Not fully going in for a 50-50. The Burnley game next Friday definitely was on his mind in the midst of that. He clearly obviously didn't want to come off the pitch with an injury in the build up to that one. So yeah, obviously the fact that it was a little bit puzzling for me that Labrie allowed Hume and Neil to play 120 minutes of football. I thought they wouldn't be involved at all yesterday. But yeah, to be honest, I thought the performance first half was poor. Second half, we gave it a little bit of a go, but overall, 120 minutes. Nice to see the likes of some of the fringe players who we haven't really seen get many minutes compared to some of the other lads in the squad. Alexic, who got the goal. Harrison Jones making his first start for the club, who's done well in terms of performances for the reserves of late. Obviously, Samed, who we signed last summer, waited 6 months for his debut. I thought he had a pretty solid debut yesterday. There was a few things he could have worked on, but overall, I thought a good performance from him. Listen, obviously, disappointed if we got through, we would have had a home tie against Cardiff, but we're out of it now and roll on to next Friday, which is a big game, a chance to go second in the league if we win at Burnley.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look at that one in a second. Cheers, Jake. Charlie, Mark says, I'm not bothered about a cup run, really. Just means there is more pressure on Labrie to get us up after limping out of both competitions, unless that is what he was told. And one in he's dropping as he's making more mistakes. So it should be a nice, making more mistakes than ever in the past few weeks. Just get your views on a couple of things there. We forgot to mention the League Cup, of course, because, of course, at Preston, you limped out of that one pretty pathetically as well. Do you think he has been told not to bother about the cups?
Nah, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think you hear him like they're that bothered about them. I don't think he's been told just to lose. He's just given the fringe players a chance in both games, really. And I thought second half, especially, I actually thought they played pretty well, to be honest, yesterday. Some of them gave some good account of themselves. Kjelder played quite well, which surprises because I've never, ever been that impressed by him. Alexic did all right. Aushish, who I'm like one of his number one haters, to be honest, I thought Aushish played pretty well. Yeah, a few of them did all right, and it was just a bit of a shame. But then again, they've got Cardiff. It's not as if it's a glamorous next round. Just another all-championship affair. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah, not missing anything big, are you, in the fourth round? Dylan, give us your views, though, briefly on it. And also, Trey said this at the end, it was a dream true to make his Sunderland debut. I'm incredibly grateful to everyone who supported me and helped turn this dream in reality. And it was a brief cameo, but how did he and others do for you?
Well, if I'm totally honest, I found a stream for the match, gave the penalty away, and I turned it off and went to the gym. I'm a 20-stone bloke, so for me to want to turn the match off and go to the gym, it shows how badly we must have started. But yeah, I'm happy to see that Trey did get his first game. I've been hoping he's going to feature at some point in the past few weeks, because he's a really good young striker. Obviously, there's rumours of Liverpool circling to try and maybe bring him in at some point. So I think it's important to keep him in the first team picture, get him minutes where we can, and show him that there is a sort of route of progress into the first team, the same way that we have done with Chris Rigg this season. But yeah, overall, as I said to you last week, I'm not asked about going through in the FA Cup, and I think, as it was Jacob said earlier about fixture congestion, it just creates opportunity for needless injuries like I suppose we had with Adji the other day. So yeah, it's better to be out of it and focus on the league.
Okay, all right then. Let's switch gears then to transfers. Shall we? It's been a busy week for Sunderland in the transfer chat. Leo, get your views on this of course in a second. So yeah, the news broke, I think, sort of early week, that there's a loan signing. Enzo Le Fée, Leo, is coming, and I want to ask you all honestly in a minute whether you'd heard of him before. Liam says, I'm beginning to think that Speakman has given up on his model a bit, especially as Regis Labrie has managed Enzo before. It looks like Speakman is letting the manager sign his own players of his choice, which is amazing. Lots to digest here. Let's ask you straight, Leo. Had you heard of him?
I had, but I must admit it's mainly through Football Manager that I'd heard of him over anything else. But I was aware purely because of how good he did in one of my saves. I was aware of the actual player he was. I can't say I've watched every game that he's ever played, but seeing parts here and there when he was playing for Stade Rennais, maybe the odd, the big game against PSG and stuff like that. So I was aware of the player he was. I don't know how some Sunderland fans know exactly the player he is, because I can guarantee you they've never heard of him. But there's a lot of hype around it. There was a lot of rumours of him going to the Premier League before Roma signed him in the summer. So it's all positive. And just looking back to that tweet, I think some people who follow this club find anything they can to slate Speakman. The first thing I said to my boys when we signed him was I'd love to see where all the Speakman out lads are now. And apparently they're still here finding stuff to complain about. But one thing that I will say is, and obviously we're going to talk about Job and we're talking about the Trey coming in and getting the minutes, is I don't know how Labrie is going to manage to put all these players into an 11 and keep everyone happy with the minutes they're getting. It's going to be a real headache for him in a good way to pick a team with the names that are coming through the door and the names that we've already got. So I'm looking forward to see how he manages it and how we line up against Burnley on Friday.
Okay. Cheers for that, Leo. John, we saw all kinds of messages from Leeds fans saying Sunderland just won the championship, to Newcastle fans saying, well, yeah, he was unveiled to 4,000 fans on Saturday against Stoke. What's your view on the qualities of the player that you signed on loan to the end of the season?
Well, we've definitely come a long way. Going back only a couple of years to signing what we did sign. In League One, there's some absolute horrors on there, which we'll mention when we get on to goalkeepers in a minute. But I'll be honest, I've never heard of Enzo Le Fée. I play Football Manager, but even then I've still never come across him. But if you can only go by what people are saying, and by all accounts, he's too good for this level apparently. So, we'll actively take that on the players that we have signed previously. Like I say, the manager's been allowed to sign his player by all accounts, and it's a pretty big outlay as well. So they obviously do trust the work that he has done. We've maybe been sort of one arm behind our back maybe sometimes before with transfers and just signing youngsters who are not yet ready. That obviously those ones we did sign, they seem to be peaking now with your Jobes and your Mills and your Riggs and Mayenda coming in and those types of things. And if you add what we'd call an established footballer in Enzo Le Fée, regardless of whether we've seen him. It should bode well for going on and having a really, really strong second half of the season. And if we're signing him, when we turn around and go for other players, we can say, well, look who we've got, look who you can play with, and we've still got in our current squad, we still own some of the best youngsters, we'd probably say in football, in Rigg and Job and those types of things. So we're going in a real good direction, and it seems, I think Speakman can be criticised on things. I think he's done things really well as well. I think there needs to be a balance, and on this, it's fantastic. A player of his ability and his calibre wants to come here and play football. So like I say, it can only bode well, and we can only use that for on and off the pitch and getting other players in, and hopefully he does it on the pitch, because everyone's, your teams like Leeds are going to look at him and think, well, let's see if he really fancies it, and they'll probably sort of stick someone on him, and does he really fancy it? So it's a challenge for him as well, but one that in his interview he says he's up for. So it can only be a good thing. All
right. Cheers, John. Jake, finally on this one, this player doesn't sign for Michael Beale, does he? If Beale's in charge of Sunderland, so
absolutely no way.
What's absolutely clear is the pull that Regis Labrie has had on this, isn't it?
Yeah, considering the fact he worked with him whilst he was manager at Lorient, there was an interesting piece that I read regarding Enzo Le Fée, how he treated. He had a couple of family issues in the early part of his life. His dad was in and out of his childhood, and him coming through when he was at Lorient, that he treated Reggie Labrie as like a father figure, because his father wasn't about that much. His father, I think, was in and out of prison. He was raised only by, I think, his mother at the time. And yeah, Labrie's played a massive part in him coming to Wearside, and it could be the most influential signing we've made in a very, very long time, particularly in a January transfer window where we've had fairly decent ones, but we've had many flops over the years as well. The Will Grigg one typified it in 2019.
Cheers for that. Charlie, as Leo said, how does he fit all these players in? The answer to that is that you might not, of course, have all of your players to hand at the end of the month. Crystal Palace want Job for 15 million. That's the rumours. Chris Rigg has already been linked with Manchester United for goodness how many months already. First of all, how serious do you think some of these rumours are, and do you expect to keep all your players, or is Job on his way for you?
No, I think they'll stay until summer at least. There's some reports after the Palace ones about Job saying that he'd stay until the summer, and I think they will. It'll just be a case of just rotating, managing all the minutes. Like Job and Rigg in particular, they're still like, when our Job's played a season and a half straight now, Rigg's not far off. They need to manage the minutes a bit more, and they've now just got the ability to rotate, because they haven't really had that this year, with Brown's being injured, Job had spells out, Rigg's had spells out. Once they're all back, we can just actually get the best out of them, managing the minutes properly. Be a nice thing for the Bray to have. Finally, he's been after it all year.
Dylan, your thoughts on the exits, potential for exits?
I think it would be absolute football and suicide to sell Job this window. I think, don't get me wrong, we're quite clearly getting an excellent player in Enzo Le Fée. If he's as good as he's made out to be, then we're probably getting one of, if not the best midfielder in the division. The problem for me with selling Job is, if you offered me the technical aspects of Enzo Le Fée's game at the expense of losing the physicality that Job provides us in midfield, I don't think that's worth swapping. I think we've seen when Job was suspended for a few games just how weak and sort of passive we can look in midfield when we don't have a big physical presence. Obviously, Job's a big lad. Le Fée is, 5'8". So I think if Job's going to go, which I don't think he will, but if he did, then we would need to look at bringing in another midfielder anyway who can sort of provide the more physical aspect to complement the technicality of the likes of Le Fée and Chris Rigg. But as Charlie said there, I really can't see him going this window. I do think we'll lose at least one, if not both of them, in the summer, that being Job and Rigg. But I don't think we should sell any of our players, especially when we're still within a shout of top two.
Okay. All right. Cheers for that one. Leo, then it's Burnley this weekend, or this Friday, actually, isn't it? We'll be able to watch that. on Sky. This was the setup when you faced them back in August. I think it was match game 3. It was really, really early on. You're the first team to beat them as well, and they've only conceded 9 goals all season so far, and that was one of them from Mundell. How do you see this one going? Can you be the first team to inflict a loss at Turf Moor?
I think we're more than capable of it. Obviously, there's no denying how good they've been defensively this season. Far and away the best defence when you look at goals conceded and XG against and that sort of thing. And I think that we do have the firepower to be able to crack that defence. Whether that means we can hold on ourselves and not concede ourselves is a different story, and we'll find out on Friday. But I think in terms of going forward and cracking that defence, as we're talking about, we're more than capable. Obviously, looking at that lineup, Alessi's not going to be in there. Mundell's not going to be in there. But, there's no Isidore in that lineup. There's no Le Fée in that lineup. We've got players who are just as the same quality, if not upgrades, on the players that are going to be missing out of that lineup we've just seen. So, yeah, I think we're in for a great shout.
Okay, John?
Yeah, like Leo was saying, we've got much better players. I don't even think Metford is in that team sheet either. I don't think. He comes in and he's definitely, we said about Player of the Month on the email earlier. He's definitely one of the the Rolls Royces of our team. Obviously, 09 struggled a little bit, but as I say, as Leo was saying, add those players in. Who we've got now, adding in, Le Fée as well. I think it'll give us a good lift, and I think we can be. I don't even think they've lost there. But I'd certainly back us to go there and let them have the ball. I think we're very good at that. And then can we pick our moments to pick them off? And we normally take one opportunity. I think we have got that ability. We can get from practically anywhere. We've got a fresh Patrick Roberts to come in as well. That will do him the world of good. Sort of refresh. And I don't think it's dangling the carrot of going second before the weekend. I think that's a massive carrot to dangle in front of these youngsters. Going into the weekend after the parachute payments and all those things that get talked about and those types of things, and a good incentive to put what we've just seen yesterday, put that behind us, and can we really, kick on from there? And that's the way I'd see it. I probably wouldn't. It sounds really harsh, but I probably wouldn't even take a point. I'd probably say I'd like to go for it.
Okay. All right then. We've asked AI to predict the results of the home games that you guys have got left. This is what they came up with. I mean, first of all, Charlie, if you look at the home games you've got left, the highest position of any team you play between now and the end of the season is Blackburn in 7th. You've played the top. You've played all the others at home already, and except for Watford, you look there, the next highest is 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and then all of the bottom 3, apart from Hull. 3 of the bottom 4 to come to the Stadium of Light. So you have got, on paper, the easiest of run-ins at home from any of the top 4 sides. And because of that, AI predicts you to get 24 points. Only draws to Swansea, Preston and Watford to come. First of all, do you believe that's possible, Charlie?
Well, I mean, I think it's possible. It would be very us to end up losing to... I mean, I'm putting it out there, we're going to lose to Hull, who are about to sign Joe Gelhardt, so we'll have him and Mason Burstow getting the goal contributions and that. But, I mean, looking at it, Blackburn obviously a tough side, but I think we should have beat them at their place, really. Watford as well, but I might be wrong, I don't think their away form's that good. I think they're much better at home. Obviously, I might be wrong, I can't remember, but yeah, I think I've got a good shout. Unbeaten, if we go unbeaten at home all year, you definitely have taken that at the start of the season, like.
Cheers for that, Charlie. Dylan, AI's been wrong before, but you'd take 24 points off that lot, wouldn't you? Undefeated between now and the end of the season?
Yeah, absolutely you do. And I mean, despite the loss against Stoke, with it being an extra time, and technically we're still unbeaten in 90 minutes at the Stadium of Light this season. So that's a record that we want to keep going for as long as possible. As you said there, we've played a lot of the sort of quote-unquote bigger teams at home already. And as long as we don't have the slip-ups against the teams that we should be beating, I mean, Plymouth's already beat us once this season. So I'd like to get that right wrong, to get that sorted out straight away, because that was really embarrassing. But yeah, I think it's always the staple of a strong league campaign when you win your games at home, and then you worry about doing your business in the away games. We in recent years have always struggled, sometimes even more so at home than we have away. So it's been really refreshing to feel confident going into every home game this season. And yeah, we should just need to keep playing the way we play. It's become a fortress this season, and hopefully it stays that way.
Okay. All right. Finally, this week then, because it's January, and January's pretty rubbish, we thought we'd have a bit of fun, and we'd set up the worst 11 that Sunderland have had in the Championship era, and that starts today and carries on for the next 3 weeks, where we fill it up. We'll start in goal, if that's okay with all of you. So we'd like you to cast your mind back to the worst goalkeeper that you've ever seen play in a Sunderland shirt. It's 20 years the Championship's been going. So Leo, in your time, who sticks out for you?
Well, that season that we had the back-to-back relegation, I think all three goalkeepers have a shout. Robin Reuter, Jason Steele and Lee Camp. But I think the only answer has to be Lee Camp. I mean, some of the goals that he conceded, I think we'd have a better chance of saving the shots if there was no keeper in the net. It was seriously that bad. Obviously, Reuter had some howlers. I remember there was one game he conceded 2 free kicks in 5 minutes, and could have saved the pair of them. But it has to be Lee Camp for me.
John?
Yeah, I'm firmly with Leo. Terrible season, that the worst 3 goalkeepers. I don't know if you'd have put them together, all 3, I think you still would have come out of a crap goalkeeper. It's just facts. Yeah, I have to go with Lee Camp, and I was amazed to see that he's kept the most clean sheets in the Championship history, which I'm amazed at, because yeah, he was dreadful, absolutely dreadful, and I've got no time for him whatsoever.
Okay, Charlie.
Yeah, I'm with him as well. I don't actually think he's that small of a keeper. He's probably, I think he is over 6 foot, but I've never seen someone look just so small in an adult goal. It was ridiculous, and yeah, he was just hopeless.
Dylan, all set?
Yeah, we've got a clean sweep for Lee Camp here. As Leo said there, all the keepers that season were terrible, and I suppose part of you could argue that it was just the culture at the club at the time that made them all terrible. Obviously, see, Jason Steele went on to have a somewhat decent Premier League career with Brighton after leaving us, but I do think that in his case, that friendly against Celtic that not long before the season started was the worst thing that could have possibly happened, because as soon as he shipped 5 goals there, he just never looked confident. Robin Reuter would have been all around okay if he was able to make a save at his front post, but he wasn't. But he did set me flare off for me at Trafalgar Square before Wembley when we got promoted from League One, so he gets bonus points for that. Lee Camp was just shocking. I remember there was one game, obviously don't get me wrong, I don't expect people to go hell for leather in the warm-ups, but I was just watching them warm up, and he was in goal, and he just didn't even make half an attempt to try and save anything. And as the lads have said, he was just absolutely diabolical, which is confusing, because at the time when he first signed, we were like, oh, we're getting an experienced Championship keeper who's quite well regarded amongst other fan bases, and then it just turned into an absolute nightmare. So yeah, he's definitely the worst goalkeeper I've ever seen, not only at Sunderland in the Championship, but just in my life from any team ever, I think, that season.
Okay. I think that pretty much means we'll be putting Lee Camp into our worst Sunderland 11. Next week, we'll ask you who's the worst striker. We'll go to the other end of the pitch. Who's the worst striker that Sunderland have ever had? Come back for that next week. Thank you lot. Enjoy the Burnley game. We'll all be watching Friday night with our feet up on our fish and chip suppers while you brave it out in the cold in Lancashire. And come back next week, thaw out, and tell us your thoughts on it. Thank you very much for watching. Do drop us a subscribe. There's tons of Sunderland content out there, as we've said before. We'd love to make this content for you, so putting a subscribe, putting a like on, and also asking your friends to follow would be massively helpful for us. Thank you, you four. Have a good week, and you have a good week too. See you in 7 days' time.